Good evening, everybody. I'd like to present now my part of this team presentation. I'll be talking about how the macroeconomics, the country of Mexico, play a role in the business decisions that Walmart does. I'll be answering two questions in particular. And the first question I will be answering tonight is to explain how specific planning and operating decisions at the organization can be improved using macroeconomic data. Well, before I answer this and relate it to how we can relate this to Wal-Mart Mexico and the business decisions that it takes, let's talk a little bit about what macroeconomics is. Well, when I like to think of macroeconomics, I like to think of it as the economy in its entirety. Every one of us has something to do with the macroeconomy that we currently live in. Right now we're in the United States, but we know that in Mexico they also have an economy that depends a lot on the things that happens in the U.S. Well, what are the things that a macroeconomic person is going to look at? Well, things such as inflation, unemployment, total consumption. All these different things that I just mentioned are part of what a macroeconomic person is trying to look at in order to make good business decisions. Because we know that we can look at certain things in a small way, but how does that play a big role for a company such as Walmart, which is trying to establish more presence in an international place such as Mexico? Well, I'm going to talk about some specific situations that can help a company such as Wal-Mart Mexico to try to see what type of decisions in the economy as a whole is going to help them make better decisions economically. So, for instance, I'm going to talk about how macroeconomics is important for anybody that must live in a modern economic society. As I mentioned, we all have to do our own personal decisions based on how the economy is doing. Well, the same thing is said about a company such as Wal-Mart Mexico. I'm going to talk about 4 different situations: investments and interest rates. That's the first thing. Suppose Walmart wants to borrow some capital because they want to start a new store, say in Mexico City, the city that I'm currently in. Well, one of the things that's going to look at? Well, interest rates. Why should a company look at interest rates? Well, we all know that when we borrow money, a bank charges a company or an individual an interest rate. Well, this interest rate is going to cost the company perhaps a set amount of money depending on what the current interest rate is. So a company such as Wal-Mart Mexico is going to look very highly at what the current loans are, current rates are, and it's going to say, well, do I have enough money to invest, or perhaps the economy is not going so well right now that perhaps I should retain from investing, and I might get a better deal in the future. The same thing can be said for the second scenario I'm talking about here, which is acquisitions. Well, why should Wal-Mart Mexico think about the macroeconomy or the entire economy as a whole? Well, like I said, suppose that the company is going into a recession and they're acquiring a smaller store. What are the chances are that that store is going to survive, being said that the money they're going to use to apply to obtain that store might be used better in perhaps trying to find ways inside the store, inside their current business model, to make things work better. But if things in the macroeconomy or the economy as a whole is not going well, should we acquire the smaller store? In a country such as Mexico, where the socio-economics and the political situation is not as stable, it's a very important question that Wal-Mart Mexico has to consider when they have to talk about acquisitions. Another thing, what are people spending? How much are they spending in a place? It's a very important thing to know when somebody's trying to determine if they're going to open a new store in a given location. Do the people in this location have enough money to buy the goods that Wal-Mart de Mexico is offering. Perhaps most people in that area only buy from the corner store. These are the things that, as a Walmart, has to look into to make the correct business decision. And exchange rates. This is one of the biggest things that can make your bottom line go really big or make it really small. Because depending on the exchange rate that your company is using, which we know is set by the government, it can have a big effect on, let's say, if we're exporting goods or buying goods from a foreign country. As we know that most of our suppliers are in the United States or in Asia. Let's say that the peso is going to rise. Well, what's that going to do to most of the cost of our goods? Well, it's going to cause an inflation for most of the goods. Are we going to have to raise our prices to modify the fluctuations in the exchange rate? Well, we know the answer is yes. So all these are things that macroeconomics has something to do with an international company such as Walmart. And of course, all the things that I just mentioned, not only does Walmart have to look at it from Mexico's point of view, but they also have to talk about it from have to see what the U.S. is doing, because what the U.S. does will directly impacts the business that happens in Mexico. Well, now we're going to talk about how could we get reliable forecasts for these macroeconomic variables. Well, the answer to this we can find it through different government agencies. The government gives a big source is a big source for us to obtain reliable data. And I'm going to mention a few of the different ones that are very useful. For example, Banco de Mexico. This is the National Bank of Mexico. And they provide an immense amount of information. For example, through their website, which is very reliable, we can find data for most of the major cities, data on their unemployment, their salary, their price indexes, their construction cost, their monetary and financial data, foreign trade, just to name a few. And through this website, Banco de Mexico, bankinsco.org.mex, we can find all these good information that when Walmart is trying to make business decisions, forecast how things are going to be in a certain area, well, we can go to this specific website. In addition, there's a manual para estudios económicos en Mexico. This manual, its purpose is to provide information needed to establish a business characteristic for larger cities. We want to open a new store, and let's say for example, Morelia, Michoacan. We're going to go to this manual and see what exactly does the city have with its taxes, its salary, its business expenses. All this macroeconomic data is going to help Mexico make a better decision, or Wal-Mart de Mexico. And another part that I like is Anuario Financiero de México, Asociado de Banqueros. This is an annual report that an independent agency from I believe it was from Europe. They make this report on a country. They have several countries. Mexico is one of them, where we can find different information such as the type of banks and economic sectors supported. And this includes indexes of prices, balance of payments, and interest rates, and a directory of banks, insurance companies by city with branches and headquarters. There's so much information here that we can keep on talking about, but for a matter of time, I would just have to mention another one real quick, the Economic Intelligence Unit Country Analysis. This summarizes national economic indicators with multi-year comparisons and selected social and political data. And all this, like I just mentioned, economic data from the macroeconomic data will help Wal-Mart de Mexico make better business decisions, and this is the place where we can obtain some of the information. With that, I pass it on to our next team member. Thanks a lot for listening.